Good evening, I'm Matterall. It is October 1st, 2020. Tonight on Talking in Stations, Anaconda Coalition Keepstar successfully drops in 8QT TAC Aquarius. More than 5,000 pilots showed up to make sure that it anchored and online. Some of those pilots were there to destroy it, some were there to protect it. But there was no major fighting. Fraternity mining operation gets nuked by Dread Bomb and friends. Reddit rumors that fraternity pilots are leaving in protest of being allies with Army of Mangoes turn out to be false. CCP has a 2-for-1 sale on Omega training. We'll look into that. Those stories and more on TIS Today, the EVE Online report. Let's get started. How you doing, Madaskar?
Hey, I'm doing great. We're also joined by Gagorn. Hello. And Murray.
Hello.
Hi, Murray. All right. First item of news is the Fraternity Keepstar that anchored today in 8QT. Now, this is the border of Delve. You can see it right here on the map. It's in Aquarius, but it sits right outside of SVM. And SVM is in Delve. And so you can see what we have highlighted here is the significance of that. A Keepstar has now jump range into Delve, which means that they can project into certain systems. And that is a very, very big development. They also have a different range for supers. I believe it's a little shorter. As you can see, a few systems can't be reached by the supers. That would be super carriers and titans. But that is a small difference. This is capitals, and this is super capitals. But
the super capital range is also the range that they can bridge subcapital fleets.
Right, sorry, the super capital range.
Yeah, the main use of that I'd expect would be to bridge subcapital fleets, because I can't imagine them dropping supers in Delve just yet.
Well, no, a lot of it's still Sino-jammed. But what was interesting about this was it was also a check of strength. How many people would show up on your side in order to commit to a fight that happened essentially in the middle of the night for most players. This was dropped at around downtime, and that's known as, now it used to be Australian time zone. A little bit after that, it's also known as the Asian time zone or Chinese time zone. And oh my God, the numbers. We don't actually have good details on it, but it was astounding how many players showed up. We hear estimates of over 5,000 players alarm clocking basically for this fight. It's huge, but the fight never happened. So let's look into why not.
The one the one local scan that keeps getting spread around is probably accurate numbers for the invading coalition, but I don't think it's accurate for Imperium numbers. But yeah,
well, it's not accurate for either, because there were supers and capitals on standby outside of the system.
It looked like that was a scan of both staging for the invasion staging and a 8QT together.
Okay.
So it would have had both, but not the Imperium fleets that had not yet entered the system or were waiting and did not enter the system.
Do we know what the numbers were for each side?
Oh, well, I don't know the Imperium numbers, but you can see that that scan has it broken down by alliance.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm looking at the scan. I just didn't add up the numbers. I was wondering if somebody had actual numbers. We see that there's 68 alliances there and 620 corporations, but we don't have the sides picked out here. But what I heard earlier today from Villy, that's the source, was close to 1,500 formed up for the Imperium and something like nearly 5,000 for the other. There were 4,800 in system. So this sounds like it's accurate for the system. Are you sure this has more than one system in it?
That's what I'm hearing, but I don't know the exact
I don't know how
details.
you take a local scan for more than one system. I've never seen that before.
I think you
You
just
could just
copy and
paste.
paste the two together.
I
Yeah,
see.
You just paste into the
yeah,
window.
you just keep
Okay.
pasting.
So there was
But this also will not get people that's docked, right?
Yeah.
So if they're docked, it's not going to count them.
It does show it if they're in local, so it does show them since docked characters do show up on local scans.
Yeah. So Test says they also had players in PTAC-Z, and I'm not sure that showed up here. All right, so 1950 in PTAC-Z, ready to go, and 2700 in 8QT TAC. I'm astounded by these numbers. Those are huge numbers for, as I said before, the middle of the night for US players, not for Europe. Europe's at noon around this time. And then, of course, it's evening for the Asian time zone. But huge.
The thing that surprised me is that when looking at that scan, based on corporation, it looked only 2 of the top 10 corporations are predominantly that time zone. One is Fraternity Corporation, Fushi Legion, and the other is Van Diemen's Demise from Northern Coalition.
Yeah, VDD. Well, and it's the number is so huge on the Anaconda Coalition side that we look at Imperium side and think, well, that's minuscule, but 1,500 or 1,000 to 1,500 is a ton of people too at that hour. So both sides formed up pretty big, but really, these numbers I've never seen numbers this big at that hour. I mean, 1,000 to 1,500 is very respectable on the Imperium side.
Yeah, I know that in my alliance, it was really hyped up to go for it, and most of the people in my new corporation, Capital Fusion, alarm clocked and multi-boxed.
Mm-hmm. So there was some action in this, and do you want to describe like what small skirmishes they were and what went wrong as far as a spy and bombers?
The Imperium, I heard that they mitted, in addition to the two sub-capital fleets that they put on grid, they mitted a third one of tornadoes and caps, but those did not drop. Uh, they the fleets that they put on grid were a bomber fleet from the Goon Swarm and the smaller Imperium alliances like TNT and the Bastion, as well as a Boosh Raven fleet from the Initiative. And the thing that went wrong is that, as I understand it, as soon as they shared the bookmark folder with the bomber fleet for the pings that they had set up last night on the Keepstar grid, someone in the bomber fleet, because of how the access control list for the bookmark folder was set up, was able to delete all of the bookmarks in it. So they had to instead use the Tornado Fleet's bookmark folder, which was not supposed to be, which was not supposed to be for bombers, so it was slightly different. As most people seem to be rather confused by what they were trying to accomplish with bombing bombers, because that's not really a tactic that anyone has seen before for this kind of situation.
I think they were trying to hold a timer with enough structural damage with bombers. That's what I thought the idea was with bombers. They could do that. Not that it worked out, but that's what I thought the intention was. All right, we're getting information from chat here. I'll just read some stuff from Hamder in 1976. It says the bomber fleet was just completely useless. Why were they dragged onto the Keepstar by bubbles? And they were dragged into the Keepstar by bubbles and killed. And CJ 1988 says 1 billion ISK says Dave the Feeder Archer just saved all the bookmarks set the bookmarks to expire in 3 hours. Okay, I thought those were more helpful than they turned out to be, but thanks for trying.
Yeah. But we got to also remember this is 4 out of the 5 largest alliances in the game going after one alliance. So, yeah, these numbers are going to be a little favoring the larger group, of course. So,
well, they're going after Imperium, which is more than one alliance. But I get your point. The numbers are.
Oh yeah, you got PanFam, then you got Legacy and Fire Coalition, and going against Imperium. So,
well, I'm just saying, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at what happened yesterday to put down this Keepstar and the weight that was behind both sides. And if I'm being honest, that's an irresistible force. Like that cannot be reckoned with. So it either has to diminish in some way, or they have to tire out, or something. But that is an astounding amount of people ready to defend an anchoring in the middle of U.S. nighttime, and I don't see how you can compete with those numbers. Those are huge. All right, I just want to emphasize that because that was a shockingly high number for downtime alarm clocks. So congratulations to the leaders who could pull those numbers. That's amazing. Okay, some war adjacent news. We'll talk about this early on. I'll just read this rumor because we want to deal with it and tell you that it's false. But Garn, do you want to explain what the thing was?
There's been a rumor going around that the largest corporation in Fraternity, Changxi, which is unlike some of Fraternity, they actually did originate from the Serenity Chinese server and have a history of being opposed to the group which on Tranquility is known as Army of Mango. There's a rumor that they are not happy with working alongside Army of Mango and are planning on leaving and moving to a wormhole. But we've checked people who would know the answer, and that is apparently false.
Yeah. So false rumor on Reddit. More news at 11. Don't listen to what you read on Reddit. If you're not going to get intel there that's accurate most of the time.
This does show how the language barrier between the Chinese community and most of the rest of EVE allows rumors to spread around a lot more than they would without the language barrier.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I mean, it spreads like wildfire, these kinds of things, and it can't be verified unless you go right to the sources, which is what we did. So, false rumor, the Fraternity is intact, and they're actually having great success putting down structures, minus that Fortizar that they didn't defend because they couldn't really contain with what the Imperium put up. But they've done well. Where they haven't done well is on their Locust fleet. We'll call it a Locust fleet, although I don't know what the name for it is. And that's where a lot of their resourcing ships like the Rorquals go out and resource all at once in a big fleet that's heavily defended. But our next guest was able to break through with his alliance and alliance friends, and they were able to extract a huge cost from Fraternity, wiping out most of those miners. Welcome, Murray Rothbardo. How's it going?
Good. Although we definitely did not wipe out most of the miners. There were probably about 70 to 80 Rorquals around there.
Oh, a lot got away. I was looking at this kill mail, and it looked like you got most of them on this kill mail, but they didn't. The ones that were wounded or not wounded didn't show up.
So those were the ones that were on that moon. They were mining
Well, tell us what
4 or
happened
5
from the
moons.
beginning. Why don't you go back to the beginning? Tell us what happened.
Okay. So about 2 months ago, yeah, that's about how long max fracs go. A couple of friends of mine were roaming around in Branch, and they came across a system with 90 Fraternity Rorks in it. Rorquals being the capital mining ship. And that's very unusual because you don't put that many Rorquals in belts, especially when the belts don't exist right now. So we pretty immediately realized that Fraternity was doing what is called a locust fleet, as in they were setting all of the moons in a particular area to come out at the exact same time, and then having everybody mine them all at once. Now, a lot of groups do this. Goon Swarm is notable for doing this with entire regions, and there was a big story when the Goon Swarm Locust fleet was jumped to an incorrect Sino and killed. However, you are usually supposed to do the Locust fleet under a super umbrella. Frat's super umbrella is 3 regions away in Oasa. So that picture of like 90 Rorks in a system made its rounds across various groups and discords, especially because they were out mining in like USTZ Prime, which is still pretty early morning in China. So the opportunity to hit them was immediately obvious. And so there were a lot of different people who wanted in on it. Like, I was one of the people calling targets, but there were like 4 others. There were a lot of different people involved, but we set up. We knew when the moons were going to come out again because moons are on a 55-day cycle. And we jumped in on them, managed to kill a bunch of the Rorquals, killed a super that thought he was going to save everybody, and then jumped out before Fraternity could come from Oasa to kill us.
So that's you killed a hell, right?
Yeah. That was a super carrier.
How many mids would they have to take from Oasa to get to you?
I think it's 2 mids to MTO, then you have to take the regional gate, and then you have to jump to Branch.
They're way far away from their security.
Especially seeing as they have to take a regional gate, which you can just start bubbling with sabers, and that's the end of it. Like, it'll take the supers an hour to get through that gate.
Wild. All right. Anything else to talk about in here?
There was one funny side note, which is apparently Goons pinged out that, like, this was an example of, like, the North being undefended while everybody was at war. When, like, we could have done the exact same thing when everybody was home, because what is Horde going to do? Burn Munins from 5 regions away in Kalevala? Like, alright. So Goons are picking spin out of it that is factually incorrect, but power to them.
So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I noticed that you and a few of the other groups on the Over report are former test who were in there during the war with Fraternity. Did that have any effect on how you guys were working together?
Nem and Seto might know each other, but I was never an FC in test, so I never interacted with them. Boss and myself, once Boss moved to Venal, I became friends with them. And Dreadbomb I interact with sparingly, but they're USTZ, so if you need numbers in USTZ, it's someone that's nice to know.
So as Nick points out, and I counted earlier, it looks like 13 Rorquals were destroyed in this attack. And that's probably the second most. That sounds right. The first most Rorquals killed all in one incident was up in the 40s. I believe that was in Fountain.
Yeah, that was the Goon Locust fleet. Technically, more Rorquals have been killed at one time in I think 2 other instances, but both of those instances were single players with ridiculously large Rorqual fleets, which made them a lot easier to kill.
Yeah. Well, nice. Are you in Rote Capel now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Maybe you can help us with this other battle report here. Rokapel fighting conifers. Sorry, not fighting alongside conifers against Volta. Looks like this is a 40 on 40 fight. I heard it was pretty good. How did this go and what's going on here?
Technically speaking, it was a pretty boring fight. We both went in with battleships and facts. Neither battleship group was breaking the other under facts reps. They put in dreads. We put in dreads. They put in twice as many dreads as we did. So they won the dread fight, which kills the facts, which means fight's over.
All right. This is a fight in Fade. Have the conifers asked you to help them repel Volta, or what's going on here at this conflict?
I mean, nobody in the North likes Volta because Volta started off a very weird deployment in Hakonen by just attacking everybody in Tribute and Veil simultaneously. So none of us actually like them because they were very annoying about it, particularly because Volta's primarily EUTZ and we are primarily USTZ, and particularly wrote late USTZ.
Mm-hmm.
So they would like anchor structures in our space or like try and get fights at like 1800, which we're all at work. Or in the weekends, like we're all like, off with our families. We don't want to fight at 1800. And then they didn't want to fight at like, 0200, which is when we were awake and available. So it led to a very annoying situation of just like bashing structures and like cloaky camping that made everybody not like them. And so when they went over and started shooting Cone, who we're friends with anyway, we were like, sounds like a good time.
Yeah, you guys actually formed up 19. That's about half of the entire group, and conifers had 16. They were the second most. So that was pretty good. Okay, so it wasn't exciting then.
Not to me. I guess it was an alright fight. Things died, but it wasn't very interesting tactically speaking.
Gotcha. All right, 34 billion was lost on Rote Capel and Conifer side, compared to essentially 9.5, 10 billion on We Form Volta. Volta has control of Fade now, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
What are conifers doing?
As well. Real life, I think.
Mostly absent right now?
They're still around, but I mean, a lot of that SOV, they didn't even have iHubs in. Like, they put TCUs there because they thought it was funny to own a lot of systems, but most of that SOV didn't even have iHubs to begin with, so it was kind of open for anybody, really.
Yeah. All right, Murray, thanks. All right, just a couple more things here. EVE Online has 3 MCTs for, how does this work? It's Omega, so you have a subscription to Omega for 3 months, and you have multi-character training passes that go along with that subscription. But they bond, so you can't trade those away to anyone.
If you're looking to like train up an alt, especially on the same account as like one of your main accounts, like your main's on, a lot of people do this for PI, or this would be good for people with skill injector farms.
Or industry is one big thing where this would be good.
Yeah, industry, market alts. It's just a little bit more than a 3-month sub, and you get the multiple character training certificate with it. So you can train 2 of your characters on one account at the same time for 3 months for $49, which is, I think it's like $10 more than what the normal 3-month sub would cost anyway. So it's a really good sell right now if you needed an extra character doing something.
It's kind of like buy one, get one free for 3 months. All right.
Almost.
Right. Okay, and the other piece of news is that EVE Academy will be teaching interdiction skills, and you can check that out with Aurora. She's running Eve Academy now on CCP TV. That happens October 1st at 1700. Is that today? Did this already pass? This was already passed. Expired. I hope you caught it. I'll get rid of that one.
Time zones.
Yeah. I thought that was fresh news. Looks like I picked it up. Already expired. Pour it out. Okay, so is there anything else that you guys wanted to cover?
Not today. Tomorrow's Friday, so should be an interesting weekend, hopefully.
Okay, good. All right, thanks again, Murray, for coming by and telling us like what went down over there. We're kind of curious about that area because it looks like there's some good sized fights. We don't know if they're good or not, but they look good. They look like they have a good size going.
Yeah, we get good fights on occasion.
Right,
I
awesome.
know in EUTZ, Trigger Happy has been harassing No Value up in the drone lands quite a bit.
So you guys are mostly the tribute groups that were up there. You guys are mostly uninvolved with this war.
Yeah, none of us really care.
Mm-hmm. Didn't pick a side or anything.
Well, the content down there is not really any better than the content up here. What are you gonna do? Go down there and get blobbed by the super umbrella of one side or the other side, depending on which side you're shooting for? So
Yeah.
we have plenty of fun up here doing our own thing.
Would you guys have you been offered money to participate on either side?
I mean, I personally haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Sad. Nobody asked me to do anything.
Nobody asked me to dance.
When I lose dreads shooting a fraternity, I have to pay for them myself. It's terrible. I think a few groups may have been offered, but either the offers weren't good enough or they just didn't care.
Yeah. Last question: Did you make much money on the ambush against Fraternity mining fleet?
Nah, you do not get a chance to get away with the dollar dues in those situations.
Oh,
The best you can do is shoot the wrecks so Frat doesn't get them either.
So they essentially chased you guys off.
Oh yeah, we'd eventually had to leave. Like I said, so I mean they're far away from their super umbrella, which gives you a time window,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still on the clock because Fraternity can still form 100 and something munins, which I can't deal with. So it's however long that munin fleet takes to get there is how long you have to jump out.
Yeah. But like he was saying to begin with, normally when you have 90 Rorquals mining in a Locust fleet, you have your super capital fleet in jump range of that Locust fleet. So that's Fraternity's bad.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that anyone would do something like that without a without a super umbrella on standby, especially since I've heard that Fraternity is really strict about their rules with capital ratting in OASA.
Well, this somehow probably just slipped under the rug, as it were.
Probably
So,
just
I'm sure-
overconfidence. Like,
yeah,
I mean, who is going to shoot them? There's no real whaling groups left, particularly in USTZ, who consistently come out of wormholes and bully people. There's no.
yeah. Well, Inner Hell left, didn't they? They kind of folded shop up for now.
Yeah, I mean they're UTZ, but like Inner Hell disbanded. Volta's trying to take Sov now instead of Whale. Dead Terrorists are very rarely active. They do a few fleets a week, but they're not big. So I mean, they just didn't think there was anybody who could shoot them.
Right. Okay. Again, Murray, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Gregorian, you too. Mannix, thanks very much. And thank you all for watching today's show. We will see you again tomorrow. That's all for Talking in Stations today. Take care. Bye.